Hey everyone, Ariel Adams here with a blog to watch. Please subscribe to our videos on YouTube and like this video if you find it useful. This is a review of the Citizen ProMaster Navihawk GPS. This is a new for 2016 version of the ProMaster Navihawk, and I believe this is the first version that includes Citizen's GPS module, which allows the watch to synchronize with signals from GPS satellites. And that's really cool because the Navihawk has always been sort of their professional pilot watch, and it's really great to have a pilot watch that can be accurate no matter where you are in the world, as long as you have line of sight with the sky so you can receive the GPS signals. So there's something I want to talk about which is quite interesting, which I never would have been able to do if I didn't have two of these watches. And you can see that it's the same exact watch. One is on the strap and one, of course, is on the bracelet. And what I want to sort of talk about is is accuracy. And when people think quartz, they think, oh, super accurate, super accurate, easy, always accurate. Of course, you know, quartz is way more accurate than mechanical watches, where your average mechanical watch is off by, you know, several seconds a day. Your average quartz watch is off by about 10 to 15 seconds per month, which is very little, but it's still something. And the reason you want to be able to synchronize with GPS signals is so that you have perfect accuracy all the time. Now, these watches have been indoors, and I've been wearing the one on the bracelet a lot more. And when you're indoors, you're unable to synchronize properly with the GPS satellites because you're indoors, and that's sort of one of the weaknesses of having the GPS watches. Once you go outside, it's actually quite amazing. It's really great because what you can do is, you know, when you manually do it, so if I push down this pusher here, it goes into manual sort of signal receipt mode, and it takes 10 seconds or less to acquire a signal. And what's interesting, if you push this bottom pusher here, the seconds hand moves, and I'm not sure if you can see, but it has the word no there, because what I tried to do a second ago is synchronize manually with the satellites, but because I'm indoors, it's unable to do that. It would say OK on the other side of the 12 o'clock hour indicator if it went ahead and was able to do it, if the last signal reception was successful. So this one I've been wearing more, and this one I updated more recently. And this one has been sitting for a few weeks, maybe about a month, without being synchronized. And if you look at the seconds hands, they're almost identical, but they're off just a tiny little bit. And that's because one of them has been more recently synchronized than the other one. Now, I've tested both of them, synced them at the exact same time. And when I've done that, the time has been exactly the same, which is cool. Like, it's obvious, it makes sense, but it's actually cool to see it in practice. So you can see here, these watches are essentially telling almost the exact time. This one here on the strap is just a little bit off, and like I said, the reason is because I haven't synchronized. And that's what makes it so great about being able to synchronize, is you can have the right time all the time. Now, these watches have an automatic synchronization mode, but frankly, it's more fun to do it manually. Now, the one on the strap is fine. The strap isn't my favorite strap in the world. If I had the strap version, I would just immediately go ahead and get another strap because the watch itself is so cool. And what I want to say, one more thing about it being a pilot watch, which is kind of amusing. I think it's something to be definitely adds a little bit of charm to the watch. Is one of the things that a lot of traditional pilot watches have, especially things like the Breitling Navitimer, is the rotating slide rule bezel. And this one has one too. You can see that the bezel rotates, and using the slide rule bezel, you can make various types of calculations. So why I think that's funny is that you have this very antiquated tool combined with what is currently the most sophisticated watch movement that Citizen makes. And the movement inside of here is their F900 movement. It's an eco-drive movement, which means it receives power from the sun or any other type of light that charges the battery, so you never have to replace the battery. And this one, of course, has the GPS synchronization, and it also has a bunch of other features like a chronograph, alarm, calendar. You have a nice power reserve indicator here. So for example, if I push this hand here, which puts it into, if I hold this one down, it goes into synchronization mode. If I just push it once, this little hand here realigns to this power reserve indicator, and then the seconds hand shows you the current time zone. Down here you have a second time zone you can reference, and when you pull out the crown, you change the function selector. You can see there that moving. So if I put on a chronograph, for example, then I push the crown in, the hands are going to realign themselves, and if I push the top pusher, I begin the chronograph. And that's how that operates. So that's how they're able to get away with having a bunch of different features like that, but not having a digital display. And if you also know the Navihawk collection, this is one of the few Navihawks that isn't an analog digital display, which means it has both traditional analog hands as well as some sub-displays, which are LCD screens. So if I push it again there, you can see that is a fractional indicator there, and at the bottom, a sub-dial is used to measure the chronograph minutes as well as hours. And I believe it measures up to 24 hours, which is pretty cool. And then I can reset it. If I want to move it back into just time mode, I can do that. So it's very functional and very cool. So I'll put the watch on. This version, well, they're all in steel. I happen to like this one the best with this cool looking bracelet. It really changes the look of the watch. This is large, but this is one of the thinnest GPS watches around, and you wouldn't know it. If you just wore the watch, it would just look like any other sort of, sort of high-tech Casio, I'm sorry, Citizen Sport Watch Casio. They're going to get pissed off at me for that. But honestly, the Japanese brands all have very similar watches because they all sort of attract the same market, and so they're all looking to have things. Casio obviously has nothing like this. I would say Citizen and Seiko have much more of a sort of fierce competition, and Casio is out there doing kind of their own thing, which is interesting. But those are the the big three Japanese brands, and I'm a fan of all of them. Citizen right now probably makes among the most sophisticated GPS watches, and I say that because they're able to sort of reduce size as much. I've seen the modules inside of the movements, which is the GPS module, which is fantastic. Synchronization time is really good, but with each new iteration, Citizen and Seiko are fiercely fighting against one another, and really at the end of the day, the consumer wins. What I have found so far is that Citizen is probably doing the best in terms of making what I'll call the most mainstream looking of the GPS watches. Seiko places a lot of emphasis on very sort of distinctive designs, whereas Citizen wants to incorporate the GPS functionality into some more of these classic, or I'll call them conservative designs. And it really depends on the type of consumer and what it is that you're looking for. Case here is 47 millimeters wide, so it's big, but you can see it's definitely wearable. If you want it to have a little bit more of a light feel, you can get it, of course, on the strap. There is also a version of this watch that comes with a DLC black coated case, which is quite sharp looking as well. If you'd like that more sort of military look, that's definitely the way to go, although that version is going to be more expensive. Citizen produces the watches with 200 meters of water resistance. So, between the water resistance, the durability overall, sapphire crystal, and this functionality where you never have to change the battery and you're accurate all over the world, you have what is arguably, one of the most sort of excellent all-purpose watches when you need something which is very reliable. And, mechanical watches are great, but if you're out somewhere and you need to have absolute precision, you can't really rely on a mechanical watch. But this, as your sole timepiece, I think you can rely on it, and I think Citizen does an excellent job at producing watches for those quote-unquote true professionals that really need to know the exact time and want to be able to rely on their watch to do so. Legibility is fantastic. You have good lume on the hands and the hour markers, and Citizen always does a good job of ensuring that there's a little bit of a glossy sheen to the dial, but at the same time, legibility is very, very good, because you definitely have a dial which feels, in a sense, even more so than a lot of other Navihawk watches, sort of a cockpit clock or cockpit instrument inspired. And this is definitely a handsome timepiece as well. I think a lot of people will definitely enjoy this version of the ProMaster Navihawk, this GPS model. So again, this is the Citizen ProMaster Navihawk GPS. All versions are in steel. It starts with this version on the strap, which it's a polyurethane coated strap. It's not a bad strap, but oftentimes you get these Japanese watches, for some reason the straps feel a little bit weird, and it's just like they beg to be put on like a higher end strap. So that's something I always recommend to do. And that's honestly, it's like no matter what watches you get, oftentimes the Japanese brands, unless you go really high end with some of their sort of like alligator or crocodile straps, the straps are just fun. And this one's fine. It's just it doesn't look as cool as I think this watch should have. Anyways, on the strap it is $1,295. On the bracelet, it's not that much more. It's just $100 more at $1,395, and the DLC coded black version is going to be $2,095, and you can see the full review of the Citizen ProMaster Navihawk GPS on A Blog to Watch. Thanks.